Welcome back to another Naval News segment. Today we're talking about Fleet Tracker. This is courtesy of the U.S. Naval Institute. They publish this regularly. And here on this channel, we recognize the men and women serving at sea in the United States Navy and Marine Corps around the world. This is what they're doing this week. But first, a word from our sponsor, another Navy veteran. So another Navy veteran has come out and asked me if I would help support his online marketplace, Hayes Gray Apparel, and I gladly said yes, because he has some really high quality merchandise, apparel, and all sorts of things in his catalog for you to browse. And if you use the link in the description that I provide you, it'll take you right to his store where you can look at all of his current items on sale. And if you want to save even more money, use my promo code SUB10, that's SUB10, and get an additional 10% off at checkout. So go to hayesgrayapparel.com, a brand new partnership I have with another Navy vet. Very happy to support him. And please support Navy vets by at least checking out his store. All right? Thank you. Let's get back to the Fleet Week here. So we're going to go over all these in detail, but this is a big picture of where everyone's at right now. We still have the Harry S. Truman in the Mediterranean. If you remember, they were stopped there on their way to the Middle East during, that was supposed to be their scheduled deployment because of the uprising between Ukraine and Russia. So they're there kind of keeping an eye on things in the Mediterranean. The Bataan and George H.W. Bush are off the coast of the East Coast right now doing some operations. Kearsarge is doing something very interesting in the Baltics. That's been going on for a while, so we finally get to talk about that. And then we have something very special brewing in the Pacific, and I don't want to spoil it, so we'll get right to it now. Let's begin in Japan. With our ship count of 298 ships, we have logistics specialist third class Adrian Serrata from Round Rock, Texas. Round Rock, Texas holds a little secret that we're going to talk about on the subbrief this Saturday. And that's the only tease you're going to get from me. But Round Rock, special little town in the United States, doing something pretty unique. But here he is on board the USS America Amphibious Ready Group, ARG. This includes the USS America, LHA-6, the Green Bay, and the Ashland. They're all in port right now, so they're doing some operations with that. Now, at sea is the Ronald Reagan. They finally came out of that winter maintenance period that they had been in for a few months, and they're at sea now with Carrier Strike Group 5. The Republic Korea Navy ships is with them. There's some 26 nations coming together for RIMPAC22. And that's going to be the largest military operation globally this year. It's going to include the most participants, the most equipment. It's an enormous, essentially, war in the Pacific simulation with real people in vehicles instead of on the computer. And so we're going to practice War in the Pacific from June 29th to about August 4th, just over a month, including the entire month of July. And it's going to be really intense. And as they make public releases, I'll be happy to update that with you as those details come out. But we know for sure Ronald Reagan is going to be part of that. And here we have, with Carrier Strike Group 5, we have sailors assigned to the Ronald Reagan deck department waving farewell to USNS Bighorn. That's an oiler that keeps up with the fleet, like a high-speed oiler. And so there they are. Apparently they had just completed something and waving. That's a traditional salute to your fellow sailors, either whenever you pass by or whenever you're operating and you're finished operating. A little courtesy there. But let's talk about Carrier Air Wing 5. Here we have the Nighthawks assigned as the Golden Falcons to Harrier Sea Command Squadron HSC-12. They fly the MH-60R, which is a fantastic helicopter. They're part of a Marine Strike Squadron HSM-77. And the Republic of Korea has their Lynx. Where's that at? I believe that's this one here in the front. Lynx helicopter flying in formation there. So let's talk about Carrier Air Wing 5. Who are they? Those are the Royal Maces. That's a strike fighter squadron. The Diamondbacks, the Eagles, the Dam Busters, the Shadowhawks, which is an electronic attack squadron. Extremely important in modern warfare are these electronic attack squadrons. They don't get the recognition they deserve because they're highly secret, but they're deployed with the carrier group, which is very good news for us. Tiger Tails, which is the carrier airborne early warning. Those are the big airplanes with the radar dish on top. They're the eyes in the sky, if you will. Providers, which is VRC 33 Detachment 5, logistics support squadron. Without logistics, we wouldn't have a fleet at sea. So obviously, no matter how good that electronic warfare suite is, these logistic guys need more credit, and we're giving that to them here. Golden Falcons is a combat sea squadron, and Saberhawks is the maritime strike squadron. Together. So what cruisers are with the carrier group? USS Ronald Reagan, the Antietam is sailing alongside her. The Navy does want to decommission her, and you can see she's looking, she's looking age. She's an old girl, but still very capable. This is what I would personally call an arsenal ship. I'm not sure if the Navy defines that anymore, but they have a lot of over 120 some VLS tubes, and if they're full of missiles, that's a lot of weapons on this thing. It's a very capable platform, but it's also a vessel of the 80s, over 40 years now of service, and it is time to move on to the next generation of ship. And looks like the Chancellorville and the Antietam are both sailing with the Ronald Reagan. Fantastic. Destroyer Squadron 15, also based out of Japan, is embarked with the carrier group. Let's see if they give us a list of those. Oh, here's one of the radar planes I was telling you about, the eyes in the sky. Here's one, looks like he's coming in for a trap. And you can see the big radar dish on top. I can't imagine, this must be a difficult plane to land. Landing on a carrier by itself is difficult in and of its own, but this is a large airplane trying to do the thing that the nimble fighters do pretty regularly. But our Navy pilots, extremely skilled aviators, they do this every day. I'm sure to them it's very, I don't want to say routine, but they're very good at it. All right, let's move on to Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72, home ported out of San Diego, and they have Carrier Air Wing 9, different Carrier Air Wing for them. So here we have a Super Hornet assigned to the top hatters coming in for an arrest, I guess they call it. I call it a trap, but I guess it's called an arrest. Okay, on that. And here, something that caught my eye on this photo is, look at this. They normally have 4 wires, 1, 2, 3, 4, but look at the 4th wire. It's not there. So he's going to come in for an arrest on 3 wires. So you better make sure he hits his mark, right? Yeah. So the Carrier Air Wing 9, those are the Black Aces. That's VF-18F. Top Hatters, Vigilantes, those are F-18s. The Black Knights is that Marine Strike Squadron. So those are the F-35Cs. Those have some stealth capability and pretty capable fighters. The Wizards, electronic. That's a great name for an electronic warfare because what they do is practically magic in terms of electronic warfare. Wall Bangers is that eye in the sky. The Titans, the logistics part of the air group. The Chargers, which is the Helicopter Sea Command. And the Raptors, the MH-60R Maritime Strike Squadron. And then so a full carrier air wing on 2 aircraft carriers sailing in the Pacific with all their support ships with them as well. In this case, they have the Mobile Bay, another Ticonderoga class sailing with her. And here we have Destroyer Squadron 21. This is going to be the USS Spruance. They're celebrating the anniversary of one of the Battle of Midway. That's what it is, Battle of Midway. And so they all got together there on the fantail. They had some flyovers celebrating that turning point in the Pacific in World War II between America and Japan. So good on them honoring those. And alongside them is the Fitzgerald, the Gridley, and the Sampson. So lots of Arleigh Burkes. Those are destroyers that are very capable, more modern than the Ticonderoga, a little bit smaller, but they are multi-mission. They can do it all, basically. If we just built a bunch of Arleigh Burkes, we would be just fine. But we're moving forward with building Constellation classes and, of course, carriers and more nuclear submarines. But the Arleigh Burke is a very impressive surface warship. USS Tripoli. This is LHA-7, departs Commander Air Fleet's Yokosuka. Everyone makes fun of how I say that. I guess I don't say it the way that I'm supposed to, but it's always been Yokosuka to me. Anyway, USS Tripoli is departing Japan. There we go. We can all agree on how I say Japan. And they're going to take part of that exercise too. Again, RIMPAC is coming up. So I can't wait to cover that. We'll be covering all the public releases from RIMPAC, largest war game in the world this year, involving 26 nations, hundreds of vessels, thousands of sailors and troops and airmen, and it's the largest war. It's basically war in the Pacific. And I wish we had like real-time feeds, but they practice tactics and stuff, and so they don't want to be broadcasting that around. But whatever they do release to the public, we will talk about. All right, let's move on to the Ionian Sea. That's over near the Mediterranean, part of the Mediterranean, I guess you could say. This is the Harry S. Truman, and they're transiting with Italian cruisers. I believe there's some French cruisers involved as well. And this is part of a NATO task group. I don't know if they're under NATO control at the moment. They kind of gone back and forth on that. Here we go. In support of a NATO-led activity, Neptune Shield and the Adriatic Sea. So the Truman Carrier Strike Group is underway in the Ionian Sea at the moment. The U.S. Strike Group was under NATO command from May 17th to the 30th. So what, week and a half, 2 weeks? The second time this year. Okay, cool. So, we're in this military defensive alliance with NATO, and the Americans are not afraid to put our forces under the command of other generals and admirals, and we do the same for them. It's definitely a partnership. That's been a little bit of a sticking point, and I'm glad that we're finally getting to, working with our partners in NATO and saying, hey, we have a carrier strike group. Where do you want it to go? Admiral of whatever country, because we are working together for the same goal. So here's an update. It says, according to the Navy, Rear Admiral Paul C. Sparrow, if I'm saying his name right, Jr., relieved Rear Admiral Kurt Renshaw as commander of Strike Group CSG-8 during a change of command ceremony held in the hangar bay of the Nimitz Air-class aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman on May 31st. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has extended the deployment of Harry S. Truman Strike Group, its escorts, and Carrier Air Wing 1 as a hedge against Russian aggression in Europe. The Truman has spent 4 months operating in the Mediterranean, and since Austin ordered the strike group to remain on station in December as Russia massed forces on the Ukrainian border. Remember, she was transiting, scheduled to go over to the Middle East, stay in the Mediterranean, there she is now. And because of all the friendly ports we have there in the Middle East, she can stay permanently stationed in the Middle East if it comes to that. We did that for decades during the Cold War. We had permanent fleets. We had a Mediterranean fleet. That's all they did, And if it comes to that, we'll do that again, I suppose. The Carrier Strike Group 8, though, look at this. Is this part of the change of command ceremony? Yeah, it looks like it is. So this is definitely a scheduled change of command, not disciplinary. It's a shame I have to point that out. But recently there's been a spat of higher officers getting released or let go or transferred to a different command before their scheduled rotation for any number of reasons, but this is just a regular change of command. So congratulations on both of them of a job well done. And Carrier Harry S. Truman is home ported out of Norfolk, Virginia. And like I said, they have Carrier Air Wing 1 with them, so let's give them some credit. They've been at sea a very long time. The men and women of the Red Rippers, that's a strike fighter squadron. Those are the F-18Fs. Fighting Checkmate's Blue Blasters and the Sunliners, all F-18s. We have a lot of F-18s right now operating off that carrier. We also have the Rooks, which is the Electronic Attack Squadron. Then we have the Seahawks, which we're getting into the Airborne Early Warning, Rawhides, Logistics. And then Dragon Slayers and Proud Warriors are the helicopter maritime squadrons with them. Here we have a sailor, and this is why I love this series so much. We're showing you what it's like to be at sea, because when you're at sea, there are no weekends. You don't work Monday through Friday. You work Monday through Monday, every day, 24 hours a day. There is no time off. There's time when you're not on watch, but there is no time off on board a ship at sea. People joining the Navy, by the way, you need to know that. There are no weekends. There's no 3-day passes unless you're in port. All right, so here's a gentleman putting on some damage control on a pipe here. And this is really interesting. This is water activated. This is a water activated seal. And back when I was in, we just had strong backs. That was a piece of steel that was curved in the shape of the pipe, and they came in different sizes because you have different sizes pipes with different curves, right? And then there was like a little piece of rubber under that on the inside of the curve to help maintain a watertight seal. And you would place a strong back on this pipe, wrench it down, slide it over the break in the pipe wherever the water's coming out, or oil, whatever it is, and then tighten that up. But now we have this technology, this microfiber looking thing that is water activated, that he's just putting on, literally taping a pipe. This is amazing stuff. The technology, even in damage control, it's not just about weapons and sensors. Even in damage control, it's come a long way. Let's give this gentleman some credit. His name is Damage Controlman Third Class Giovanni Villabas. Places an emergency water-activated patch, or an ERAP, on a ruptured pipe during a flooding training by Flight Squadron of USS CG-56. So this is on one of the cruisers. Looks like they're doing a drill, and he's wrapping up a pipe. Good for him. That's bonkers, man. Water activated damage control. Man. Oh, here we go. Let's move on to Destroyer Squadron 28, still with Harry S. Truman. Here's Quartermaster First Class Patrick Holmes from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Big salute to him in Fort Lauderdale. He's locating navigational aids on board an Arleigh Burke class destroyer USS Jason Dunham, DDG 109, when approaching the Duras Albania. And this is called a piloting party. And so anytime you're navigating near shore, whether it's coming in and out of port or just literally near shore, you'll assign these additional watchstanders, generally from the navigation division, but other divisions can support them with personnel that are trained to do certain things. And he's doing what's called taking a fix. So he's getting a visual bearing to a landmark, whether it's a lighthouse, a bridge, a beacon. It could be anything that's distinct and on the chart. And he's like, okay, this lighthouse bears whatever, and he'll radio that to whoever's on the chart, and the guy on the chart's drawing lines, and you get cross bearings on the chart to get your exact position, and you just do that continuously as you navigate through these shallow waters. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of my layman's explanation of what they're doing. And so he's standing the watch doing the right thing. I love to see it. Destroyer Squadron 28 is with the Truman right now in the Ionian Sea and in the Mediterranean. That's the Cole, the Bainbridge, the Gravely, the Jason Dunham, the Gonzales, and the Royal Norwegian frigate Nansen is still with them. Yeah, this has been a long time. That's a lot of firepower. This is a serious naval power projection going on there. Very impressed with our sources there. Not to mention all the land-based support they get because they're in the Med. But let's move on to the Baltic Sea. I've been wanting to make a video about this for a long time, but I wasn't sure what we could talk about. So we're just going to go with what the Naval Institute says and leave it at that. But in the Baltic Sea, the Kearsarge has been there for a while doing BAPTOPS-22, which is this military exercise including Norway. I think it's actually run by Norway, but we've included everybody in that region to do war games with us. And some of the photos coming out of Sweden of the Kearsarge, because right now it's in Stockholm, are incredible. This is one of them. Here on the right, you can see what is a cruise ship. Anyone that's been on a cruise ship, well, they come in different sizes, but they're all pretty big. And this cruise ship that has multiple decks, so I would call it a big ship, the very top of it only comes to the flight deck of the Kearsarge. And then you have all the superstructure on top of the Kearsarge. These ships are enormous. These warships are enormous. I would encourage anyone to try and take a tour if you're near a naval base and they're giving tours publicly, just to really walk the decks of these things whenever they have those types of events, because it's something to behold. It's humbling when you're aboard one of these. And I can't imagine the responsibility of the sailors to maintain and run these ships. It's really incredible. And hats off to them. They do a good job. So back to the Kearsarge Ready Group ARG and the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit are in the Baltic Sea for BALTOPS-22 exercise that ran from June 5th to June 17th. It includes participants. Oh, it's running now, I guess. Okay, includes participants for 14 NATO countries, including Sweden and Finland. So we've invited them. I think we've worked with them in the past, but it's kind of a big deal now because they're joining NATO. Welcome to the family. We're going to quote the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Army, Mark Milley, says, "It's important for us, the United States, and it's important for other NATO countries to show solidarity with both Finland and Sweden in this exercise because of the NATO joining." Yeah. And welcome to the club, guys. Those both those countries are very capable of defending themselves, and adding them to NATO makes NATO much stronger. This is no, old man of Europe. No, these are two very capable militaries that are joining NATO, and it just makes NATO even better. So glad to have them. Now, in the Western Atlantic, what's going on over there, right? I kind of hit on that a little bit in the beginning. Well, that's normally where we do workups for deployments, and on the Pacific, off the West Coast as well. But today it's happening off the East Coast. We have VA-18E Super Hornets from Fighter Strike Squadron, VFA-136, landing on the aircraft carrier. So, they're getting back into the routine, practicing their landings. I'm sure they have some sort of qualification program that, even though you're an F-18 pilot, you still have to have a certain number of arrests within a certain period of time. And I'm just kind of speculating there, but that's just kind of how qualifications work. Once you become qualified a watch station, you still have to maintain proficiency. So I'm sure these guys are doing things like that, getting ready for their next deployment. And he's landing on the George H.W. Bush. CVN-77 is underway on the coast of Virginia ahead of an anticipated deployment this year. Again, no dates. We don't know where it's going, but once it gets there, we'll be happy to tell you all about it. The Italian destroyer is with it, Norfolk, and the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group is composite unit training exercise. Computex is happening. Okay. Yeah, so they are part of a training exercise as well as a workup. Good for them. And look at this picture of the Marine Corps. They're coming in on their little air cushion boats. These things are pretty cool. These haul the Marines to and from the shore back to the ship. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, and an amphibious assault ship USS Bataan LHD-5 is drilling off the coast of Virginia, presumably with the aircraft carrier group. It says, in addition to these major formations are shown, others serving are submarines. Yeah, we never talk about the deployment of submarines. Well, that'll never happen here on this channel. These are strictly, the surface deployments around the world. All right. Well, big salute to all the sailors. I hope the young men and women out there get a better idea of what it's like to be on board these ships for long periods of time if you're thinking about joining the Navy. And for this old hats that have done this for years, well, this is what today's generation is doing. And I couldn't be more proud. It's pretty awesome. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye.